People think of a katana as a weapon, but originally these swords were more than that. They belonged to the gods.
For over 1,000 years, the craft of polishing Japanese swords, making deadly weapons into veritable works of art, has been practiced by specialists known as togishi. Takushi Sasaki, one of Japan's leading togishi, has been polishing swords for over 40 years. Of all contemporary sword polishers, Sasaki is the only one with old-style live-in apprentices. Right now, 2 are training with him and aiming to become independent togishi themselves.
ここの先端がこうなってるでしょ。はい。ここからちょっと音を下ろしてくるだけでいいんだから。はい。ね。技術じゃないんだその。見る目だよ見る目。見る目がないから。ダメなところまでまだやっちゃうんだよ、はい、これを見つける目だよ、はい、見つける目がないから壊れても平気で押すんだよね目を三角にしてそういう目をしてちょっと顔見てみろ YouTube 秋田の顔な YouTube が怒ったって知らん顔でしょ知らん顔秋田はね繊細そうな顔してね雑ですよそれをねやっぱり自分がそれを感じなくちゃダメですよね。その顔ちょっと睨みつけんじゃないよお前。出ますか。違うです。
違うです。
違うじゃない。もっとね嬉しそうに仕事しろよ嬉しそうに。また先こう返せ。これ大変だねとってな。かなりハーフね。うんこれはもうあんまりやってない方がいいからね。はい。これ肉それようと思わなくていいからね。はい。いやよくなりましたよこれこの子は天才だよねでもね顔は天才な顔じゃないけどねプレッシャーがすごいですいやいや本当にこの子はね天才だと思うね
Yuichi became an apprentice at age 15 and has steadily honed his skill. Now he stands on the brink of earning Sasaki's permission to set up his own independent workshop.
My father's a sword collector. I'd been looking at his swords since I was small, and that's what got me interested in this. Sasaki-sensei prefers live-in apprentices. He says it's the only way to make a good sword polisher. So I came to live with him. Right from the start, I've been constantly amazed, watching sensei work with the blades. It's always astonishing. I never expected the process to be so incredibly beautiful. So this is how a sword is polished. Wow, I thought. Could I do that, I wonder? No, I couldn't.
I actually asked to become his apprentice when I finished junior high school, but he said I just wanted to get out of studying. So I went on to university and even applied for a job. But I knew I wanted to work with blades, with swords. So I went back to Sasaki-sensei.
Yuki Akita fell in love with katana while still at primary school.
You can't understand the real appeal of Japanese swords until you actually see one. The first time I saw a sword, I couldn't believe it. I thought, this is just amazing.
Sasaki receives orders from all over Japan.
I have about 40 swords here. When a customer wants one done quickly, I make that a priority over ones where I've been told there's no hurry. There's even one I've had for more than 20 years now. I'm very grateful to that customer for waiting so long. This one arrived a few months ago. It's rusted so badly, you cannot tell what the blade is like underneath. You see? But it has a good shape, worth restoring. So I decided to polish one section to check it out.
When a section was polished, this rusty old sword revealed its hidden beauty. It was the work of a master swordsmith.
You hardly ever find blades of this quality. But they do still turn up from the back of a storehouse and so on. Sometimes they turn out to be real masterpieces.
Since ancient times, the Japanese have appreciated the aesthetic qualities of a fine blade. The steel, the overall shape. Just like a human face, each sword has a distinct personality. Perhaps the most characteristic feature is the hamon, the temper line where the whiter blade edge emerges. The beauty of these lines is much admired and described using images from nature: flowers, clouds, mountain ridges. The bare surface of the blade resembles wavy wood grain. On close inspection, you can see a sparkling line of diamond-like particles, much admired by sword collectors. The annual All-Japan Sword Polishing Contest is approaching. Success here is a great boost to the career of a Togishi. For the next 2 months, Yuki and Yuichi will concentrate on their entries. Yuichi has chosen a famous sword from the mid-14th century, when Japan briefly had competing northern and southern imperial courts.
The moment I saw this sword, I knew it was the one. The whole shape is really beautiful. And one look at the hamon told me this could really do well in the contest. That's what I thought. Yes, I do feel confident. If I can present something that would amaze the judges the instant they see it, I might have a chance. Maybe.
In contrast, Yuki has chosen for his entry the celebrated work of a swordsmith from the late 17th century. As a practical weapon, the quality most valued in a sword was the sharpness of its blade. The inscription on this 400-year-old blade states that it was tested on 2 corpses. Lethal, yes, but the sheer beauty of the steel blades made them objects of spiritual reverence and artistic appreciation. Japanese swords are crafted today using methods unchanged for over 1,000 years. After a blade is forged, it is strengthened to make it sharper. Black clay is applied along the blade edge. The rest of the sword is coated in thicker red clay. How the swordsmith applies the clay at this point determines the final look of the hamon. Plunging the sword into cold water results in a sharper and harder edge, the part with the thinner coating of clay. At the same time, the hamon painted on by the swordsmith becomes deeply baked into the heart of the sword. Sasaki has a visitor bringing swords for the master to polish. This is Kuniie Yoshihara, one of Japan's top swordsmiths. He has the utmost respect for Sasaki's skills.
私が作ったものを 100%、200% こう表出してくれるか 50% か出ないかの違いですから、だからもう 100% 以上出してもらいたい。
A blade fresh from the swordsmith's forge. Until the polisher has finished his work, even the swordsmith does not know how the sword will turn out. Sasaki prepares to polish this fresh blade. The first process is foundation polishing. He corrects the shape of the blade, using coarse grindstones to remove any excess surface metal. Sasaki works like a sculptor, but with the cutting out of sight on the far side of the blade. Once metal is ground off, it cannot be replaced. Sasaki proceeds with caution, relying on his sense of touch to guide him.
Of course it's scary. A superior blade like this is the only one of its kind. You can't make another one just like it. To polish means to grind away steel, which means it can never be redone. Whether a sword becomes a true masterpiece depends on the high-risk work of the polisher.
As the work proceeds, Sasaki changes from coarser to finer grindstones. By polishing at different angles, he gradually removes the scratches of the earlier grind. After repeating this process 10 times or more, the scratches are all gone and the hamon is faintly visible. Next comes shiagetogi, the finishing of the blade's face. Sasaki rubs crushed pieces of grindstone on the blade's surface, making it dark and glowing. Next, he uses softer material to whiten and bring out the hamon pattern. The balance between the light hamon and the darker part of the sword reveals the artistry of the polisher. A month later, the sword is finished. Sasaki has brought out the beauty of the steel from the newly forged blade and given it a magnificent hamon. A blade brought to life by a master polisher. In Japan, these swords embody the power of the natural elements, inspiring awe and reverence. Japan now has only about 50 professional sword polishers, and the number keeps declining.
We haven't had a new apprentice in years. So many give up after a few months and go back home.
As the most junior apprentice, Yuki does the shopping and all the other household chores. This is his 9th year as an apprentice. At this point, he's very good at making the household budget go a long way.
This will make about 5 meals and came out quite cheap. I guess if I really try, I might squeeze 6 meals out of it.
でもちょっとおかず少なくないかねえ魚しかないじゃんかよもう一品欲しかったよな、ねこの骨を骨がない方がいいな
I think about our health. None of us are teenagers anymore, so I thought it was time to start trying some more healthy flavors. But they weren't impressed. I was at a loss. Carrots were cheap, so maybe I should have made a carrot and chicken wing stew or something like that, with another side dish. I'll keep trying.
At some point, I will have to fend for myself. But how will my work be rated without Sasaki-sensei looking after me? Are my skills good enough? I don't know. I'm willing to give it a go, though. I do want to get married one day, but not right now. I need to focus all my attention on the job. That's all I think about.
He's been working on this blade for 3 weeks now, and Yuichi decides it's time for the final stage of the foundation polishing.
It just touched me, and look at all this blood. A touch is all it takes. Here's the wound. Normally it's the palm that gets cut. So this is a bit embarrassing, actually. Sensei will be furious.
This is where I make a note of everything I'm taught each day, everything I experience and any new insights I have. Just anything, really. I started after university, so I'm not like younger guys who can just imitate. I need to use my head. That's what Sensei told me. It's like peeling an onion, one layer at a time. Don't be tense, get rid of your ego, but stay in touch with the true strength inside you. It's never the blade that's wrong, it's your technique. You're not doing this for your own sake, but for the sake of the sword.
You mustn't get angry with them too much, but sometimes you have to, and they have to be able to take it. Someone who comes here and goes home each day won't learn the craft properly. You must have live-in apprentices. Otherwise, they'll just avoid doing the really hard, important training. You need to keep pressuring them.
In total, Sasaki has accepted over 30 apprentices. He'll take on any young person willing to learn. He houses them, feeds them, and even gives them pocket money.
I'm far from being a rich man, but I'll accept anyone who wants to train with me. It doesn't bother me if they soon decide to leave. If they keep trying, I'll keep on teaching them. It's been a tough life. Actually, I think it was too much for my wife, and that's why she died. I've spent loads of money on looking after my apprentices.
One of Sasaki's apprentices, who went independent last year, has come to visit. After dropping out of high school, Yoshimasa Mizuta trained with Sasaki for 12 years. 4 years ago, he won the top prize at the annual Polishers Contest, and Sasaki decided he was ready to start his own workshop. But working alone, things did not go well. At last year's contest, he ranked below Yuichi and Yuki.
時間良くなったね。
ありがとうございます。
帽子のなる目が縁がちょっと白っぽいよな。
ああ、そうですか。
やりすぎじゃないんだ。
そんなつもりはなかったんですけどね。いつも通りだったんですけど。
練習的にはいいんじゃないかな。
ああ、ありがとうございます。
期待できそうだね。二玉するのは大変だけど、二玉っていうのも覚えた方がいいかもしれないな。
やっぱりすごいなと思いますよ。ここまでのトゲを一人で誰も見ずにできる。
うまいな。よく研いでるな。うん。
これだと勝てそう、ゆういち。俺に勝てそう。
分かんない。自分俺のもまだ下地だから。
そうか。
ミスターはね、この子は何でも器用ですよね。また有志と違う大胆な部分も持ってるんですよね。いい勝負になると思いますよ。だからこの3人がね、いい勝負になると思うんだけど。
意地でも負けたくないですけどね、去年とか負けてますからね、コンクール。もう今年リベンジですからね。
年上の人は気ぃ使いますしね。
弟子入り
した頃どうだったですかね。
どうもこうもないですよ。金髪でピアスしてもうダラダラの洋服着てケツ半分出してきたんですから。それでと思ったんですよ。みんな「すぐやめんじゃないですか」っつって言ったから「そうかじゃあこれがすくか」っつって。
でもあと大変だろうな。
あとはね全部
独立してもやっぱそう思うもん。よく取ってると思うもん。
最初 1,2 年は余裕で使えないのにさ。でただ飯食わせなきゃいけないんだよ。でも多分先生だからこういう弟子が来るでしょうけど。
Yoshimasa rents this house, about an hour's drive from Sasaki's workshop. He married a year ago and is still just getting started on his new life as a sword polisher in his own right.
I made my workspace just like the one Sensei has.
He has a special safe to store the swords he's working on.
I keep them all laid out flat like this because I don't have enough swords lined up yet. With just a few like this, if you stand them vertically, they're always falling down. These ones wrapped in paper are in the preliminary polishing stage. In the past, I would always be going round to see Sasaki-sensei and bothering him with questions. But recently I've stopped doing that. Now I try to work things out for myself. Is this a good way to do it? Is this a bad way? I'm gradually getting there.
When you put up photos like this, somehow it makes you feel as if you're connected to them. I can't stop myself. I keep finding another photo to put up. The one in the middle is my wife. Next to her is my mother. I think I've always been a bit different, making a nuisance of myself. I often made my poor mother cry. Here's what it says. This man left home on September 24th, 1960. Thinking back, I must have been just 17. I ran away from home and got myself from Hiroshima to Tokyo. It's embarrassing, really, but I suppose you could call this my starting point.
At 30, Sasaki became a father. His son decided to become a sword polisher and apprenticed himself to another master. It didn't work out, and he came home. But Sasaki wouldn't take him on as his own apprentice.
He wanted to come and train with me, but I said no. I already had other apprentices, and I thought it wouldn't be fair on them. That's why I didn't take him on, my own son.
なんか秋田やけくそっぽいな。やけくそにやってみて。いいよいいよもう。こっちの。こっちもやんの。
先輩、12万5,000円。13、14、15。
At this sword market, held once a month in Tokyo, dealers gather to bid on fine blades brought here from all over the country.
We look at the shape, the appearance, the hamon, and the grain. They all have to be in perfect balance for a sword to be considered excellent. Great examples can fetch hundreds of thousands of dollars. Company presidents buy them, but so do regular office workers. Japanese swords are popular worldwide, so we get foreign collectors too.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Come on in.
Good to see you again.
I have sandpaper. I can do
Pablo Kuntz is a Canadian who specializes in selling Japanese swords to foreigners. Today, he's visiting an American client.
There you go. Very good. I mean, because you're tall, right? I mean, it does.
It fits very well. Where the proportions, are just about right. Where
when they hold that sword, right, where they pick it up for that first time, it's like this connection, right? It's just this magic connection where the sword chooses you, the owner.
In addition, just taking care of them, that 20 or 30 minutes it takes to take care of them every once in a while is extremely relaxing and extremely calming. And it's a good reminder of all those same things where you can focus and do what you're doing extraordinarily well and then move on to what's next in life.
I live in the UK now, and I conduct basically all the work online, right? So I have an office in Japan where my secretary is, but a lot of my clients are around the world, right? They're interested in Japanese swords, not only in Europe, where I'm based, but also in the States and in Canada and also in Japan as well, right? So I often, encourage clients to do a polish. A sword polisher is an investment at the end of the day, right? It's an investment not only for the sword's sake, for the long-term betterment of the sword. I mean, if a sword is beginning to rust, right, it's only a matter of time before that sword is going to be damaged forever. So look at the sword polisher as somebody who's going to rescue the sword. Better for the sword, better for the client, better for my business. It's a win-win-win situation.
For the competition, Yuichi is aiming for a straight hamon, suguha. The idea sounds simple, but in fact this is said to be the most difficult hamon of all.
There's something magnificent about suguha. It looks sleek and potent. I'm aiming to create a powerful suguha. I want that sense of power and strength.
Yuichi has now been polishing the hamon for 3 days. The straight white line of the Suguha is clearly visible.
どうかね。
はい。
まあちょっともうどうしていいか分かんなくなってるな。なあ。うん。ちょっと荷が重い感じはするよな、ゆうちにはな。まあよく考えてやってみろよ。はい。
Yuichi wanted to create an absolutely straight hamon for this old blade. But the more he polished, the clearer it became that the hamon was getting wavy, closer to the tip. He's struggling to find a way forward.
It's not interesting to try and polish in the same way as someone else. You want to find your own way. But you have to appreciate that each blade has its own qualities, and you can't ignore them.
もう刀に負けてるよ。うん？まあこれを良くならなければコンクール出させないから。
Sasaki himself had a hard time on his path to becoming a togishi. After leaving home, he traveled the country seeking a master, but no one would accept him. Finally, at age 30, Sasaki found a master willing to take him on as an apprentice. Kokan Nagayama was a living national treasure. Having trained over 100 apprentices, he was a celebrated master of the craft. Nagayama taught him everything, and finally Sasaki made a great debut at the Polishers Contest.
What can I say? He was like a god to me. He had such power. I could never figure out where it came from. I could never be like him. I've never been able to surpass Nagayama-sensei, but I hope someday my apprentices will become better than me at least. And it would be outstanding if even one of them ever managed to eclipse the skill of Nagayama-sensei. I live in hope.
Yuichi has now reached the most difficult process, polishing the hamon on the tip. This is the final stage. Failure here means redoing the whole blade.
何やってんだよ。この刃先は全然歯型の方が全然当たってないよ。歯型の方を当ててこれっつってんだよ。もっとさ、度胸決めて決めちゃいなよ。出さないんだよ君は怖がって。
Yuichi is trying to enhance the wavy hamon as it flows onto the tip, but his fear of a mistake is making him angle the blade too timidly.
もっと中入ってこれ、もうちょっと中入れ。下げるなってる刀を。そこの行くのが度胸だよ、度胸。下げちゃダメなんだよ。下げるなってんだよ。ああ、下げるなっつんだよ。これ手を下げるなっつんだよ。上げろっつんだよ。ねえ、言うこと聞けよちゃんと。もっとゆっくりでいいから確実に当てるんだよ、確実に。
On a good day, this might take only an hour. Yuichi's already been at it for 15.
どうだ。悪いな。家口じゃこんなもんかな。なんだその運っていうのは。大変だったろ。大変でしたよ。すごい経験だった。そうですね。よくなった。ごめんなさい。ありがとうございます。
When I started, I wanted to create a straight hamon. But the natural quality of the sword led to these shallow undulations. Well, I think it looks good. It came out okay. I certainly feel I've done everything I possibly could. At least now, I won't feel embarrassed about showing it to people.
A 14th century sword, polished to perfection by Yuichi. It demanded exceptional perseverance and judgment as he abandoned a desire for straight simplicity and embraced the inherent beauty of the blade. Yuki has also finished his sword, and it's ready for the contest. His hamon is a pattern called choji, representing scattered cloves. Today, they will learn the results of the contest. Yoshimasa had struggled in competitions after becoming independent, but this time he is the overall runner-up. A silver is among the top awards, and Yuichi's best performance to date. Among the more than 20 entries, Yoshimasa's blade has drawn special attention. Yuichi's sword, his expertise earned high acclaim.
Well, there is a certain feeling of disappointment, but I already have my sights set on next year. This year's contest is over. I myself wasn't satisfied with my work this time. One day I will be. And then I'll know I'm ready to go independent.
And Yuki's sword. This time, unfortunately, he wasn't among the winners.
When Sasaki-sensei says, "Why can't you do this?" I can't tell him. That just goes to show that I still don't know enough. Oh, I won't give up. This is my life. If I give up, it's game over. I don't want to be a loser.
They both have great skills, Yuichi and Yoshimasa. I'm satisfied with that aspect. My constant concern, though, is how someone does after going independent.
Pablo, the Canadian sword dealer, has heard about Sasaki's reputation and comes to visit. He has brought a very expensive blade, forged 400 years ago by a famous swordsmith.
刀は抜群にいいけども、時は抜群に悪いな。
大丈夫？
ダメ。
Yeah, okay, all right.
全然ダメだね、時がね。これね、メイト、これはすごいメイトだよ。ちょっと見て。
良くなります。これはすごく良くなる。
Yeah.
歯が効いてないからね。働きとかもっと出る。
もっと出るね。
内曇りがね、効いてないです。
研いでみたいです。やっぱり一番は字がね、どうなるか。多分良くなると思う。あと匂い口。もっと明るく、匂いがもっと強いっていうイメージでやっていきたいですね。
それは OK。お願いします。ユイチさんはしますか？
どうよ？
いや、
それは先生が。
そう、OK。
先生いいって言ったら。
そう、先生の選んで、そう、OK。じゃあユイチさん。そう、OK。
Yuichi has just successfully polished one priceless old sword, so Sasaki decides to entrust him with this one too. A 1,000-year tradition. As that heritage passes from Sasaki into the hands of a new generation, the future is looking bright, with Japanese swords now gleaming in the global arena. But first things first.